It hit an area where there's a lot of people in a lot of those low-lying areas, and it's going to end up doing extensive damage to a lot of people's homes. So there's going to be a lot of work to do. Today is about identifying the people that need help, who may still be in harm's way, but also beginning the process of rebuilding some of the things that we need to have services restored, to have fuel, and to have the things that people need in terms of communications. I want to thank Kevin Guthrie for having these assets ready to go. We're going to use every bit of them, and we're going to be there until all the tasks are completed. So, Kevin, you want to come up and give an update?
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, First Lady, for your leadership across the state. Going into a little more detail this morning, obviously, as Tropical Storm Ian continues to move across Central Florida this morning, we have damaging winds and extreme rainfall expected throughout the Northeast Florida and Central Florida area. I want to emphasize that the storm still poses a major threat to the state, including Central Florida right now and Northeast Florida. Orange County Fire Rescue is actively conducting 9 wide area search responses on the water for rising water in the Central Florida area. That is happening right now as we speak. At this time, the division has received more than 1,500 resource requests from our local impacted partners, and we have filled or are in the process of filling 1,300. As the governor said, there are 300 plus truckloads of food and water that have been loaded out, and they are mobilizing to leave to the Southwest Florida area right now. In addition to the issues with cell phones, we are deploying cell phone towers, as the governor mentioned, over 100 assets in that arena alone. We want to reinforce, and we appreciate the fact that we have received over 15,000 inputs to our shelter-in-place system. So we want to encourage you, if you are sheltering in place or you know someone that has sheltered in place and you know that we need to have go out and check on them, please register that individual or register yourself at floridadisaster.org/report. That's floridadisaster.org/report. We have made that more specific. Yesterday it was info, but we made it a little more specific so you did not have to hunt around for that site. So again, I'll repeat it for the third time, floridadisaster.org/report to complete the shelter-in-place survey. I want to reiterate that is not a replacement for 911. If you're in an emergency situation, you need to call 911 in your local area. Our logistical staging areas in Central Florida have all the additional resources that we need to respond. We have tarps, we have medical supplies if needed in those warehouses. We want to make sure that all the available resources can get to the residents as quickly as possible. We are obviously in a situation now where we are starting our 72-hour clock, and that 72-hour clock is that we search first, we secure, and then we stabilize. So that is what the focus of the State Emergency Response Team is going to be over the next 72 hours. Again, that is search, secure, and stabilize. I want to thank the Governor and the First Lady for their continued leadership and support. They've been here nonstop around the clock. And again, sir, I thank you for that.
Okay, First Lady.
No, I just want to say on behalf of the governor and myself, everyone here who's working at the Emergency Operations Center, all of the men and women who have not left since this disaster began, to all of those people across the state, our first responders, I want to say thank you, because the people across the state and the country have stepped up big to support our Florida Disaster Fund. So far, in less than 24 hours since we launched the fund, we've raised $1.6 million. I am in constant contact with two folks. One, the people of Volunteer Florida, to pledge that we are going to remove any red tape and bureaucracy from getting those funds deployed to the people who need them immediately. And then also we're working with a lot of businesses across the state to continue to build upon that. But thank you to the people across this country and this state for stepping up to help wonderful people who are in need. Again, there's a couple of ways that if you want to continue to donate, you can go to floridadisasterfund.org, or you can also text disaster to 20222. But on behalf of so many wonderful people, thank you for stepping up, and please continue to do so.
So we will be having all assets marshaled until the job is done on this initial phase. I may be able to get down today to help to survey and talk to some of the folks down in Lee and Charlotte counties. But those were massive impacts, and so we are looking at. Kevin said, these 72 hours very important for safety for folks and rescuing people that need that. And eventually bringing some stability, but you're looking at a storm that's changed the character of a significant part of our state. And this is going to require not just emergency response now in the days or weeks ahead. I mean, this is going to require years of effort to be able to rebuild and to come back. These are fantastic communities down in Southwest Florida with a lot of fantastic people, and they're very tough and resilient. Of course, they didn't ask for this, but they need our help now, and we're going to be there for them. And we understand that this is going to be a very, very long process. And we also understand that these effects are going to go throughout the state today, and you're going to continue to see effects from flooding and these other ailments, not just today, but in the days ahead. So thanks for the support for everyone around the country who's donated, and thanks for everyone who's volunteered the time, and thanks for all the other states who have lent their support to us. Okay.
Been reports that maybe there were hundreds of fatalities in Lee County. Do you have any clarification on how?
So none of that is confirmed. I think what that is there were 911 calls for people saying, hey, the water is rising in my home. I'm going to go up in the attic, but I'm really worried. Of course, those folks are now going to be checked on, and so I think you'll have more clarity about that in the next day or so as they're able to go to those locations and determine whether people need services or are able to be rescued. My sense is that that water was very, very high. But my hope is that if folks did go higher, if they were there, it's not comfortable, but now we're in a situation. I mean, if you're there, they want to come get you. And so hopefully we'll be able to see a lot of those people brought to safety. And I can tell you in the barrier islands, I mean, there have been a number of people that have been helicoptered to safety. And it's great because, these folks sprung into action and they're doing it. We have had the 2 unconfirmed fatalities in the sense that we don't know that they're linked to the storm. I mean, our assumption is it likely is. And so basically FDLE will make that assessment and then that will be reported. But that's what we have. That number that was put out by Lee is basically an estimate of, hey, these people were calling, the water was rising on their home, they may not have ended up getting through. So we're obviously hoping that they can be rescued at this point. And I know the folks there locally, those were the areas that they wanted to spring into action to, and they really used the information that was coming, not just through those emergency calls, but also through signing up on the website to see. And I think it's safe to say, Kim, there's a pattern that's developed about where those calls are coming from and where those people are signing up from. And you can see the areas. I mean, no one wants to see. I mean, you see 3 foot of water in a road. I mean, that's obviously bad. That's going to do damage. But you see the places where the water was 4, 5, 6 feet in a residential area, and that is really the life-threatening situation.
Details of what you're hearing from Central Florida as far as flooding and other damages?
Yeah, this morning at 5:45 a.m. I received a phone call from Orange County Emergency Management Director Chief Laura Lee Avery. She's actually technically assigned to the fire department as a division chief over the Department of Emergency Management there. She called me to let me know that they were actively responding to 9 widespread areas along the Colonial Drive area, I-4 State Road 46 area of Central Florida, and that they were requesting assistance for stuff that we may have staged in Orlando. So very quickly this morning, our overnight crew sprung into action and started moving National Guard high water vehicles as well as other assets that were staged there for urban search and rescue elements, swift water elements, and they started moving into action this morning. I do not have a total number of potential saves that they have done, but what it's linked to is the massive amounts of rainfall that are happening there. We were receiving reports that some creeks, tributaries, the area around the St. John's, headwaters around the St. John's area, and unconfirmed, may have been rising at about a rate to about 4 feet in a matter of hours. So lots of rain in the area, lots of instant action water rise. There's a lot of lakes in Central Florida, especially in that Orlando Kissimmee area. And it appears that these lakes were filling up and overflowing into the neighborhoods around them. So that's what is going there on in the Central Florida region. I will say, as a part of Central Florida and also as a part of Southwest Florida, do not come in and tour the area for damage. We have 20,000, 30,000 responders coming into area that need access to those roads. Stay at home. Do not get on the roads. Let the first responders have the roadways. Let the power crews have the roadways. We will get things open up exponentially quicker if we don't have to maneuver around individuals that are just coming into area to look around. So please stay out of the area, both in Central Florida as well as Southwest Florida. Let the crews get in there, do what they need to do. We're coming in full force. We've got a lot of people coming in there. We need to get out of our way so we can get our job done. Thank you.
But also just note, I mean, as this exits the state, it's going to go into the Atlantic Ocean, and it's going to impact other states in our country. And so you're looking at Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, they may be having impacts. This is just a lot of water, and you're going to have flooding in those other states as well. Of course, they're not going to have to deal with the catastrophic impact that Florida suffered on the southwest coast. But this thing is not done creating damage. I mean, this thing's going to continue to move. I know they've declared state of emergencies in many of those states, and they're going to have to deal with this storm, which is wreaking havoc across our state, but it's going to end up wreaking havoc in communities across the southeastern part of the United States. Yes.
Governor, you made a comment about a pattern for the 911 calls and the surveys. Is there an area that you're looking at that you can share?
So I would say, and then Kevin can come in and do, I would say, obviously, the places that got the catastrophic storm surge. So you'd be looking at the barrier islands in Lee, Charlotte counties, some of the coast, even in Collier County. And then you're looking at, as you go inland, in kind of that Fort Myers, Charlotte County juncture, where you've got the Caloosahatchee, you've got these inlets, you've got the harbor. Those areas, because the storm surge can come on a barrier island, it's there, and then that is just the water's just building up. And so you see that they were absolutely consistent with Kevin posted. We have it in there in our room, the inundation map from 24 hours ago of what we projected. And what you'll see is some of those areas, you go inland even many blocks, and you have massive inundation that are off those areas. And so I think it was a pretty consistent pattern. And I think if you look at what's going on, it's going to be those communities in Lee and Charlotte counties that are close to those bodies of water that probably suffered the most severe flooding. And, there's people that had, the Coast Guard has had people that were in their attic and got saved off their rooftops in those areas because of the flooding. So that, I think, is pretty clear that was really that. But you also have, normally we would say, having 3 or 4 foot of flooding in some residential area was like a big deal. You see that in like Northport, I think I would say, in southern parts of Sarasota, but that's just a different degree than what we've seen in Lee and Charlotte counties. Okay, we will be back here likely later today, but we will be down in Southwest Florida as well.
Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida officials giving an update. I'm going to go over real quick as we have some images from downtown Sarasota. This is not an area that was hit dramatically hard, but you can still see severe wind damage in downtown Sarasota. Let's go over some of the notes that officials sent. So let's pull these up here. So what we need to know as the storm passes through Florida, millions of Florida residents are without power. They can't confirm storm-related deaths at this point, but we know over 1.2 million residents in Florida are still without power. So that means cell phone towers are down as well. 100 portable cell phone towers are being deployed to Southwest Florida so people can get in contact with loved ones and anybody that they need to reach out to. There are reports of structural damages to buildings, bridges rather, multiple aren't passable, including one in Coral and other communities out by the Tampa, Sarasota area. Orange and Seminole counties, these are inland counties, more towards central Florida, will see flooding with rising water throughout the day. Obviously still very dangerous. Major disaster declarations are currently in place for 9 counties across the state. You heard Governor DeSantis say he has talked with President Biden. That number will be expanded. There's help for the injured on the way in areas harder hit than most of the state. It's still a risky situation with power lines and trees down, standing water on inland areas. And then for disaster assistance, you can go to FEMA.gov. Got to fill out some paperwork, but you can get help there. Now, if you want to contribute and help out those impacted, you can donate at the Florida Disaster Fund. You heard the First Lady in Florida mention that they've already raised about $1.5 million for those in need. You can text disaster at the number 20222, and then you can volunteer if you're maybe in the region or in Florida and want to help out at volunteerflorida.com. A couple other notes from officials to mention. About 1,500 resource requests have been made from damaged areas. So what happens next? Well, those are going to have to be fulfilled pretty quickly. Officials are searching, securing, and destabilizing over the next 72 hours. That's basically the quick, short form of what has to happen from first responders when we see something like that. You search, you secure those who need help, and then you help those who have been destabilized. That is the goal over the very short next couple of days. And people will be checked on, and we will learn more about fatalities probably over the next few days as well. We don't know a whole lot quite yet, according to the governor, because they just don't have those totals. There's been reports of more than 100 people who have been killed by this storm in the Tampa Bay area, but the governor says those are just calls about people who are experiencing flooding. Then they hang up because they have to maybe search for a higher area to be safe, and we won't have those numbers confirmed for some time. So that is the most up-to-date information we have on what was Hurricane Ian. It's now Tropical Storm Ian as it makes its way up the eastern part of the state and then into South Carolina, Georgia, and North Carolina. We'll be back with any breaking news on our Facebook Lives, as well as being carried by our stations across the country. For now, we'll pause. We'll be back later on today with more updates. Tia, you got something? What do you see here? I know we got the governor in Georgia. So it looks like we're about to get started here, maybe from Georgia. WTOC, our affiliate there, has that coverage. That is Savannah, Georgia is where that is at. While we wait for this coverage, I'm just going to show you some more of these damaged pictures from WWSB in Sarasota, Florida. As you can see, we've got a window broken into. That's by an art gallery. That's from the storms. You can see we have some of I guess you can say the covering over maybe a restaurant has been taken down. And this is in Sarasota, where downtown wasn't hit as hard as the surrounding communities, but you can still see all that damage from our Sarasota affiliate. They've got those pictures. And then windows have been broken. You can see a lot of trees down on the ground, brush down on the ground. A jewelry store has been damaged. Trees down. More damage to local buildings. Just wind damage in downtown Sarasota, Florida. I got another shot here for you. I'm going to pull up. This is WGGB, our affiliate. I'm going to double check who this is. Yeah, so I'll hold off on that. Let me see if we have Savannah here going live. Governor Brian Kemp about to give an update on damage. Really more not about damage, but about the upcoming storm system heading over to Georgia as it'll move up the East Coast and into that part of the country. As you can see, they're setting up for that. I'll give them a few more minutes here, and if we don't see them, we'll have to go to break. Yeah, we'll come back to this. I'm going to hold off on this for now. We'll come back to this live stream. We'll stop ours now. We'll pick it up again, though, if Governor Brian Kemp does pop on. We got to get a break in. Let's get a 3-minute break. When we come back, Governor Brian Kemp here on Local News Live gives an update on what to expect in Georgia.
Streaming 24/7, you're watching Local